Hey, it's Clint. Hope you're doing well. I'm here at my shop today firing some pottery, and I thought I'd share a video with you of the process. This is my wood-fired tunnel kiln. It reaches a temperature of around 2400 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's a really interesting process. The flame will start to shoot out the chimney, and so it's really interesting to see. It's made out of red brick in the chimney and fire brick in the arch, and this design originated around 1810 in the Edgefield district of South Carolina. Originally they were probably groundhog kilns, which is this kiln that was dug into the earth under the ground. The tunnel kiln is basically a groundhog kiln that was above ground. I'm in Northeast Georgia, so the Northeast Georgia version of the groundhog kiln was above ground, and it was called the tunnel kiln. So that's what this is. I'll show you the arch right here. As I said before, the arch is made out of fire brick. The arch gets hotter, so red brick won't hold up well enough to stand the heat. They'll melt out over time, and so fire brick is better to use to build an arch out of. This is the wood that I use. It's all dry pine, and I'll burn through the majority of this during the firing. I used to use sawmill slabs, and I still use them occasionally when I find them, but these work a little better because they don't have to be cut and they don't have to be dried as long. So I'll continue using these until I find another wood source, or until this one runs out. But the reason you use pine versus oak is because pine gets hotter. Oak will burn a little more steady. I use it sometimes up to a certain temperature, but after a certain temperature it won't put out the heat that pine will. So I like to use pine instead of hardwood when I fire. I'll show you the interior of it. I just started it, so the fire is pretty small. It's not very hot right now. It'll get a lot hotter than this. You can see the pottery back there. That's called the wear floor. And then this is the front. This is called the firebox, where the fire is built. The way I get it in there is these brick here at the door will be laid in with no mortar, and they can be removed. So there's a doorway. I just climb in and put it in there, and then climb out and brick up the doorway and leave a stoke hole. And then there's some air holes. I have them blocked up right now, but you can open them, and that allows air to get in where it can heat up better. Right now I'm heating it slow, so I don't want it to heat up too quickly. The more air it has, the quicker it will heat up. The purpose of getting it to 2400 degrees is to allow the clay body to vitrify fully. It needs a full vitrification, otherwise it will leak or seep when liquid is put into it. So I like to make sure it's fully vitrified. Vitrification is basically where the clay body just turns to a form of glass, and it's no longer got any places for the liquid to seep out of. Over here I'll show you some pictures of some older kilns from this region. This is a interesting photo of Daddy Bill Dorsey's pottery in White County, Georgia. It shows him and his sons Albert, Herbert, and Charlie, along with some itinerant potters, standing in front of the pottery shop. You can see some churns and some different items on the drying table, and the pottery shop, the way it was constructed. And then over here is the kiln. This particular kiln looks like it had a doorway near the back, which allowed for it to be loaded and unloaded from the rear. Some of them were built that way versus where they were loaded from the front like mine. During the 1890s, the Dorsey family, Williams Horatio Dorsey mainly, helped teach the Metters family to make pottery. And one of the Metters family members was named Cheever Metters. Cheever Metters made pottery until 1967. He was pretty much Georgia's last folk potter. And here's a view of him in front of his kiln and his mule-powered pug mill. You can see his kiln right here. You can see the chimney and then the door at the front where it was loaded and unloaded. And it was in a pretty good state of decay when this photo was made, and I believe it was rebuilt shortly thereafter by his son Lanier. And here's a photo of Lanier at his kiln, what it looked like. And Lanier's design was basically like mine, an above ground tunnel kiln. And it was sort of different in that the top of the chimney was choked down a little bit. This kept the flame from flaring up. Some potters like to do that. My kiln's not too bad about it, so I don't have to do that, but some potters like to do that. And you can see some really neat face jugs right there that he had just pulled out of the kiln, and him collecting some money for it. That's what us potters like to do. We like to get our pottery out of the kiln and collect money and get it sold. So far this is what the kiln firing looks like, and it will progress during the day, and I'll show you the rest of that process later. Okay, it's been about 4 hours. The kiln is heating up and it's getting hotter. It's at about 1200 degrees, and at this point it's going through a process called quartz inversion. That's where the clay in the pottery is changing from a clay-like structure to a structure more like stone, where when it gets wet it won't turn back into clay. And this process occurs whenever the carbon or the soot that's inside the kiln starts to burn out. That's how I can tell the temperature. I'll show you what that looks like on the inside. You can see that the pottery has started to glow now, and it's not black anymore. That's where the soot has burned off of it. And you can see on the top of the arch, there's a soot line that has formed. And behind that soot line, it hasn't gotten to 1200 degrees yet. And in front of that, it's hotter than that. And you can see how big the fire is. And at this point, you have to be really careful. It's really critical. You have to run the fire really slow and not let the flame hit it too soon. If the flame hits it too soon, it can blow up, or it can also crack, or it can make the glaze crawl. Crawled glaze is a glaze that has dry spots in it where the flame actually hit it too soon and made the glaze shrink faster than the clay itself. So a lot of bad things can happen if you let the flame hit it too soon. I've opened the vents up a little bit, and that will allow more airflow so it can heat up a little bit better. But it also allows me to close them off if I get a flare up inside. Sometimes a piece of wood will have some extra sap in it, and that'll cause it to flare up a little bit more than I want. Or I'll just by accident put a piece on that I shouldn't have put on, and that'll make it flare up a little bit. But I can close that off and keep the flame from hitting it like that. But I'll gradually burn the soot line further back and heat it up and get it hotter, and eventually I'll be able to see the back wall. And once it gets to that point, I can start adding more wood to it and start the process called the blast off. And that's the part where the flame starts to shoot out the chimney and where you start having to really stoke it good. Okay, it's been about 3 hours, and I've burned the soot completely out of the arch, and the flame is now hitting the back wall. The temperature is somewhere between 16 and 1700 degrees, and I'm getting ready to start the blast off. I'll show you a view of the interior. You can see it's a lot hotter now. Everything's starting to glow more, and you can see all the way to the back, and the flame is starting to go across it more. I've opened the front vents up to where it can get more air. That will let it heat up a little bit quicker and better, and hopefully keep it at a more even temperature. And then once I start the blast off and I start adding more wood to it, the flame will start to shoot out the chimney, and it'll get about 3 foot high and shoot out a lot of black smoke, and it's a really interesting sight.
There's on number 5. Did you post number 5?
I've started the blast off now, and as you can see, the flame is coming out the chimney. It's putting out a lot of black smoke, and the temperature now is probably around 2000 degrees. The presence of the black smoke inside the kiln interior creates what's called a reduction atmosphere. The reduction atmosphere with an alkaline glaze will change the color of it, and we'll turn it from a brown orange color to more of a greenish color. The combination of the carbon atoms combining with the clay and the glaze will create that color. In a electric kiln or a oxidizing kiln atmosphere, it will not get that color, so that's why wood firing is interesting. I'm about 10 hours into it now, and you can see the flame is coming out at its full height. It's at around 2400 degrees, and I'm about to shut it down. I'll check the cones in the back of it. They'll tell me exactly what temperature it's gotten to, and I'll show you back here. I have a little opening, and I pull these bricks out, and it'll let me see inside the kiln, and then I'll be able to see the cones and whether or not they've melted. They're called pyrometric cones, and each one is formulated to melt at a certain temperature. I have cone 7, cone 9, and cone 10, and I'm looking for the cone 10 to melt. Okay, the flame has died down now from the previous stoking, and I'm going to walk to the back now and check the cone, and I'll see if it's melted enough to where it's finished. Slide these brick out. And what I'm looking for, if you can see that, is the 3 cones right there. The one on the right is completely melted. That's the cone 7. The one in the center is the cone 9, and the one on the left is the cone 10. And it's slightly melted, which means that that's pretty close to where we need to go. So it looks like it's finished and it's ready to cut off. I'll walk around to the front now. And maybe I can open it up and get a brief shot of what it looks like at the high temperature. Sometimes it doesn't show up well if there's a flame, but maybe we'll be able to see it just enough. That's what it looks like when it's at 2400 degrees. I'll close it up real quickly so the cool air doesn't hit it. And I like to shut off the airflow so that it doesn't cool down too quickly. I'll just put some brick in front of it. And then let it cool down. That'll cut off the airflow so that there's no cool air flowing through. The cool air coming in can crack it if it cools down too quickly, so it's better for it to cool down slowly. So that's pretty much the firing process. I'll let it cool down about 48 hours, and then I'll climb in and take a look at it and see what it looks like. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day.